maybe the worst misconception that Americans have, that they think, well, it's over there. We have this mentality, it's only over there, it's not here. We don't have to worry about it. But when and if, I don't want to be too negative here, when and if this comes to our shores and it becomes commonplace here, what will the attitude of the American public be like concerning our Constitution, our freedoms? That's a question I'm not sure we can answer, but I'm interested in your speculation.
That's a great question. I think, number one, there's going to be a lot of shock. If, God forbid, it started hitting us here on our shores, and man, God's hedge of protection over this country. I mean, it's been pretty great. We've had great law enforcement and intelligence work that's broken up these plots. We've had a bit of luck as well, but that hedge of protection, that God has had over this country, that's, sustained us and protected us against this threat for the large part over the last 15 years. But look, I think it's going to shock a lot of people if it comes. I mean, there's going to be a sense that they're unprepared. Look, many, not all, are, watching reality TV and fiddling on their iPhones half the day and not tuned in. I think there's no excuse today, after 9/11 especially. You don't have to be a news junkie or a political expert, but to at least know what's going on in the world and not just bury your head in the sand. I think that's a sign of the times, to be quite frank. But you think also, and you think of disasters waiting to happen, Jan and Eric, and I think of the southern border and our borders in general. Talk about being asleep at the switch. Look, I think one of the most chilling passages in the book was a conversation I had with a former CIA clandestine services officer. This is a guy who spent 30 years in hotspots working for the CIA around the world. And he said, Eric, the thing that keeps me up at night is the prospect of an ISIS terrorist smuggling a biological or chemical weapon over that porous southern border and using it in an American city. So we have a situation where it's been nearly 14 years since 9/11, and our borders have never been more insecure. And long term, you cannot sustain yourself as a nation state and protect your citizenry if you do not secure your borders. This is a disaster waiting to happen.
Right. That's what you say, Eric, in the book. You say that the southern border is an attack waiting to happen, and you say that U.S. Customs and Border Patrol documents obtained by Breitbart state that some 474 illegal aliens from terror-linked countries were apprehended the first 7 months. That's just of 2014. 2015 stats probably are more troubling. And then you say many are concerned that ISIS will work with drug cartels, and I wouldn't mind you expanding on that, but then would you please answer this question, if you can, because maybe this is a wild rumor, and that is there an ISIS training camp just 8 miles south of El Paso?
We'll answer the second part first, Jan, about the training camps. Like you, I saw the reports. I've been trying to verify them. I haven't been able to verify them yet. I talked to a few people who were skeptical, and the point they made was, look, if these camps are just south of the border, why isn't the Mexican government doing anything about them? I thought that was a good point. In the article, it was published at Judicial Watch, the website Judicial Watch. They've done a lot of great work on a variety of issues. Usually they don't delve into the national security realm, but obviously this was an eye-catching report. I've not been able to verify it. The sources in the piece are unnamed. That's pretty common to have unnamed sources. So I can tell you that I'm trying to verify it as we speak. I can also tell you that, look, terrorist groups like ISIS, number one, have noticed that border. If we're talking about it, you better believe they see how porous it is, and they're seeing thousands and thousands of people pour over it. Not hard for ISIS to kind of get into the mix and cross it as well. I can also tell you that we've had cases over the years of Hezbollah operatives crossing that southern border. And you mentioned the OTMs, the other than Mexicans, hundreds coming from Muslim-majority countries. So I don't think it was a totally outrageous report. I have not been able to personally verify it yet. That's the kind of report that needs to be double and triple sourced. But it definitely raises alarm bells. And look, we know that there's three ways, really, in my view, Jan and Eric, that we can be hit by ISIS. And we know that the border is one. I think the other way is these city wolves I mentioned, the homegrown jihadists here who maybe have never traveled overseas, but they're radicalized online. And then number three, the returnees, the American cities. And there's been 180 U.S. citizens who've left and gone over there. There's been up to 5 5,000 Europeans who've left and gone over there to Syria and Iraq. What happens when they return home? To me, they're the three major crisis points when it comes to ISIS in the United States.
It's stunning to me, absolutely stunning, that one of the few things that we absolutely know that the executive branch is elected to do is to keep us safe and have a foreign policy that keeps those outside our country who would come to harm us. They have opened the gates up. They seem not to have any care about who's coming across there. Of course, some people say that's just because they want a new voting block to be able to come in free of charge. But, you know, what's coming with that voting block, I think, could be our very undoing. That's so stunning to me that they should have been protecting us, and they haven't. And now we have the fox in the henhouse.
You know, President Obama said in 2008, right before he was elected for the first time, he said that he wanted to fundamentally transform America. His words, fundamentally transform America. He didn't like America as it was currently construed. Well, I hate to say it, but I believe that he is succeeding in many ways in his mission.
I want to go out of this segment with one more soundbite, and it's you talking to Dr. Michael Youssef. And the reason it's so significant is Michael Youssef grew up in Egypt in this Islamic kind of an atmosphere, and he makes some brilliant observations about just some of the things we're talking about.
Dr. Youssef, thanks so much for joining us. You know, you come to us today. It's very, very timely because we just saw a horrific terror attack unfold in Paris, obviously, with jihadists gunning down 12 people. Dr. Youssef, is this the new normal here in the West? Can we expect much more of this?
I just heard some security expert was saying that this is probably going to become a weekly event around the world somewhere because particularly now that Al-Qaeda is in competition with ISIS, and ISIS trying to tell their followers, go for a lone wolf things and just do your thing. You don't have to get orders from us. And so that is the word out now, activating all the sleeper cells around the world. In fact, you know, England, sadly, I believe is not going to escape, neither will we, unless we take a strong stand.
And we haven't taken that stand, Dr. Youssef. You talk about in the book how you were raised in Egypt. You were raised around Muslims. Dr. Youssef, you know the Muslim culture intimately. You've been on the ground dealing with Muslims. What are we here in the West missing when it comes to Islam and jihad?
In a word, the truth. The truth is really the victim in this whole debacle. As long as we live in denial, or we deny the truth, or we try to gloss over the truth, we will never get to the bottom of it. When Reagan said, Soviet Union is an evil empire, I'm going to mobilize everything within my power in the Western world to defeat it, the world rallied and defeated the Soviet Union. Until and unless we have that kind of leadership, somebody says Islamist ideology, the jihadists, is evil, and therefore it needs to be eliminated in all of its forms. Until that cry is sounded and the alarm bells sounded, and then a intelligent strategy to follow through of how to go about this.
Call it an evil empire. It's probably not going to happen. With the current crop of leaders, anyway, it's likely not going to happen.